How's it going, everybody? Welcome back for another witness analysis session, I guess. The last episode we finished up the quarry area. So, it's not exactly the case on this file right now because I'm going to have to like redo some of the other areas that I've done in previous videos for various technical reasons, but in any case, there's only one area left that we have to analyze before we can proceed into the in-game area. So let's go to the town. I'm not sure what to say about the town other than, generally speaking, the town is kind of an area that's designed for you to have walked through it multiple times. And it's perhaps the most open area in terms of actually your approach to things, right? We could potentially consider the windmill puzzles part of the town area, so I think for purposes of this video I will, so that we can go ahead and do those. So we initially kind of have this panel here that is pretty straightforward. There's really no other way to do it. It's just kind of draw this shape, which is sort of the shape of a windmill, although this one's kind of like this right now. In any case. And there's another kind of straightforward puzzle here that can be solved either way, which will start the windmill turning. Yeah, it's interesting to note there's this little kind of creepy circulatory system layout over here in the roots. Just something you might not have noticed. In any case, let's move on down here, and we're not going to do any of the vault puzzles until later. That's probably going to come as its own sort of thing. But we'll sort of have the setup for that here. So this is interesting because we're given this kind of ability to look through, right, the door with this very dirty glass here. Texture appears to be mirrored vertically, which is a bit odd. Not sure why that is. Maybe, I guess there's one on one side and one on the other, but they didn't do multiple textures. Anyway, so, yeah, so we have this little moon and a night sky here that we have to solve. Very basic puzzle, but it gets played on a little bit. And a peculiar set of honeycombs that may come in handy later, but is not really of any use to us now. Also, we haven't covered the triangles. We'll go back through those too. The triangles and the vaults, I think, will get kind of covered on their own. The triangle one's going to be a little bit odd, I guess, because I'm going to have to just kind of go around to each one. I'm not really sure how to approach that, but I guess I could do an actual edited video for that where I cut those parts. So, of course, the front gate there is sort of just a motif that gets introduced that then this is meant to kind of play off of. Obviously, if you don't know what the black and white dots are, then you wouldn't be able to make it through the front door, but the black and white dots are fairly straightforward, whereas these require you to also know the polyominoes and our little, I forget what we decided to call these, our little canceling buddies here. So I believe you can just do this, right? Yeah, you just eat that. Oh no, that doesn't work because there's two of these, so I have to have something wrong on both sides of the line, right? Just one thing though. If I do that, that's one thing there. If I do that, that's one thing there. So I think it's that. So either of these will get us out of here, so it's kind of just whichever one you know, I guess. I suppose this one you're like naturally going to think, oh, these form like a little frame around this. And of course that won't work. It's a little odd that I can't draw this any closer than that. It's like a larger gap here for some reason than the actual circle. Anyway, could be a bug, but probably not that important. All right, what are we gonna say here? Yeah, so we've got several different L shapes here. Little L triominoes. Not quite sure how to think about this. We can certainly do that there, but that doesn't quite help us on top. On top, we still have like the problem of filling these out. And there's not like an obvious dense packing here that you can do. I mean, you could obviously theoretically do that shape, but you can't end it, so it doesn't really matter. The fact that we're kind of stuck down in this bottom bit makes me think that like you do some trick where you put like this L here, right, in that corner, but then that means that I'm gonna have to like go around to the point that I can see that piece, right? Which I guess would be like this, and then like, I don't think there's a way though. I don't think there's a way. Not that leaves a gap anyway. Because anything that's going to hit this is either going to connect straight here. I guess we could maybe do something like this. Don't know what's in the bottom left though. So if that's there, then can't put the top right one in the bottom left because then it would have a gap that would include that bottom left shape, and so that wouldn't work. And the bottom right, we could do the bottom right, we just need to knock this out. So then we'd be like at what? Does that in and of itself work? Oh no, it doesn't, because now I have this nonsense. Why must you be this way? I felt so proud for a second. This is an unusually hard one compared to the one on the left, isn't it? It's interesting. I'm not really sure how to think about it is the thing. Because that works, were it that we could draw the exit, right? So these three are happy. Well, it doesn't tell me because it's a knowledge gate puzzle, but you know, you get it. You get the idea. If that was like that, bottom left, so I've got the bottom left there, and then I've got the bottom right there. And then the top left is there. So that is what we just did, right? And mirroring that's not going to make any difference because the panel's symmetrical horizontally. Yeah, it's really just right here where we're stuck. In this corner. With that solution. So, what can I say? I don't know. So I'm stuck going up the middle no matter what. Now I can go across the bottom one way or the other. So that's a thing. That's pretty much it. Excuse me. And if I do anything like of the sort, of like putting that shape there, then that has to make it to the top right, which puts me in a bit of a predicament. So I feel like I need to do what I was doing, right, in some capacity. Well, it theoretically could be like this, right? That's possible. That is possible. I don't know what to do with that, but it's possible. It doesn't really seem to help, because I can't see how I would get that and then go up and get the top right. So it's kind of the opposite of what we want anyway. Like, I feel like I'm gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this. And then that's gonna have to be like that, for sure. Is there some way we could do like this? Yes. Okay. Flip them all around. Top left goes in the bottom left. Bottom left goes in the top left. Top right goes in the bottom right. Bottom right goes in the top right. You draw a big H. Anyway, okay, so there's that. And that leads out to another little optional puzzle here. So let's go ahead and do this too. These puzzles get so big on the screen. Just thinking about my own game and how small I tend to leave the puzzles on the screen and whether that's a problem. Okay, so yeah. So obviously, like, these make you want to do this, right? You're like, oh, I want to stick that like that, but you can't. So what can you do? Well, you could stack them, but then we're still in a situation where black gets grouped with white. You could make a kind of S shape. Oh gosh. That opened straight into my face. And there's another one of these, which we'll come back for later. So I think that's pretty much the optional puzzles in the town area, if we want to kind of call those in the town area. It is the most kind of non-linear area in terms of what you can do and also what you have to do. So most of the time people don't really think of this way because they can't really, or they don't spot the kind of yellow ending box. I don't know, the laser box, right? They don't usually spot that before they find a puzzle they can do, right? It's sort of meant for you to be able to see it from a distance, right? Like if you're standing here, you can see that. You could almost snipe the thing, but I don't think you can. You could almost snipe it, but the bottom is where you have to start, so you can't quite. So yeah, so there's pretty much, if you'd seen the tower, you would see, okay, well, there's like a wire that goes there, and there's a wire that goes there. This one's red. This one's blue or purple. This one is yellow. And this one is unclear what color it is, black. So that gives you 4 threads you can follow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And you have to do all of them in order to get to the laser box. But you can do all of them in any order, which really makes sense for this area, just because the mechanics are mix-ins from everywhere else, so it doesn't really make sense for you to kind of order them in a specific way, because it's like, well, they're all in roughly equivalent level of like complexity or mastery or whatever. But the town, such as it is both a kind of visual and a puzzle mashup of all the different areas, right? So as you go through it, kind of everywhere is sort of reference to those different things. I'm not quite sure what this is a reference to exactly here. Maybe just some of the underground stuff. I don't know. But mechanically, we're just mixing in polyominoes. Keep wanting to call them tetraominoes. It is in this case tetraomino, but and the little hexagons that you have to pick up. So this puzzle set's kind of interesting because you just sort of, oftentimes what you'll choose to draw will lead you to kind of end up with this dead end here of one dot. So you know whatever you're going to have to draw has to not have one of those dead ends in it, right? So like that won't work because there's another dead end over here. So that means what? I don't remember. I don't remember. I think this is it, yeah. So that goes like that. Okay, weirdly that, oh, okay, we weren't snapped in. I didn't even know. Because I was like, it wouldn't let me go to the next one by clicking it. So now we kind of have the same thing, only with the extra dot over here. So we know this dot has to be there. The question, Raymond, becomes how do we do the rest of it? Because we can't do that, because now we've got dead space there, and we can't do that, because now we've got a dead one there. I think we do like this. Yes. So there might be an alternate solution there, but I believe that that's the kind of trick there, is that you probably want to extend it that way based on the fact that this is here and that's to the right of it, and that little square of the tetromino is on the right of it, so you think, oh, it's going to extend that bit of the tetromino out. So this one we have this kind of shape, so we know at least whatever we do is going to have this in it, although we don't necessarily know what. We can't do that because that would have like an extra space. The other thing is, like, I don't know exactly what you would call it, but everything that you can draw on these that would hit all of these, it requires that the widest possible shape be one width at its widest, right? So for instance, you're allowed to do this type of kind of pillar here, but you can't do this pillar because it's too wide and now there's stuff in the middle. So, but you can do this because it stays one wide, right? At the widest spot. Now, I guess you could say technically that, I guess it's not the widest spot, it's more the narrowest, right? Because it is wider between here and here, that is too, but when this goes back over, that makes sure that it stays narrow, at least of that much. So I'm not really sure how to verbalize that, but that's kind of like the meta rule there. So maybe we do something like this. Does that work? Yes. Okay. Now we got two that we gotta glom together somehow. And yeah, so that kind of gives us that same thing kind of comes into play where it's like, so somehow there has to be a shape that includes those two in it, because those spots are fixed on the board, so we know it overlaps with that. And we know we can't do them like back to back because, of course, that would create this area that is too wide at its narrowest side, which we're not allowed to do. So it has to be one wide at its narrowest side. So what would that be? I mean, the inclination is to think this, but this is not going to work either. I mean, unless it's something like... No, that doesn't work. Hmm. Yeah, there's less than as many as you'd think configurations of two of these that end up with the narrowest side always being one wide. Because like if you do that, then there's no way to fit the other one in there. And it feels like it should be this, right? But that doesn't work, of course, because we leave gaps. And I can't shift that up because then that would be cut out. We can do this though. Also, this is the shape that we could do. Don't know that it works here, but it's theoretically possible to do. As is this shape, I think. But neither of these are making me happy. Let's think about this though. Could you do that shape, but rotate it like this? You can, but that doesn't help because then we blocked our exit. Could you do it any way at all? If you do like this, now we've ended up with a dead end, and also we've cut ourselves off. Oh, no, okay, we can wrap this way, okay. So yeah, it is that shape, we just have to wrap it that way. I feel like this is gonna take a while, this area. I've already taken like 20 minutes, and we haven't done that many puzzles. Mostly it's just because the puzzles here are kind of hard. I'm not really sure what to say about these, other than, like I said, that there's that general rule about, like, one wide at the narrowest, right? It can't be too wide at the narrowest. In other words, it has to be a minimum of one wide at its narrowest point. What does that make? I don't know how to explain what I'm saying, but you get the idea, right? That like it's always a thing that there's always an area on the outside of that area that's at least adjacent to the tile, right? I don't know how to explain that. Anyway, there's probably some mathematical term for that, but so all of these have kind of had this same motif of the little T block, and then this one decides that it's going to not use the T block and instead use straight blocks. So I'm not really sure what to say about this. So obviously we can't do a 3 this way, right? So 3 gives us this unfortunate property, right? Which is that if we just try to stick a 3 any old way on here, you know, then you're going to end up with like a dead spot, right? And so that's like the problem that we have most of the time. So what do we do here? And of course we can't do something like this where we put the 3s overlapping. I mean, not that that's correct anyway, because it isn't. But even if it was, we can't do that. So what can we do, Gandalf? Yeah, we just can't do anything like that, and we can't stick the 3 up there. you know, you might want to do a shape like this, but that doesn't quite work. Now sticking that at the top does look slightly more promising, doing like this, but that's not quite working either. Like if that's like that, then we can kind of fill this in, but then we're on the wrong side of the line, so that doesn't work. There we go. Nope, that doesn't work either. I was so close. I was so close. Other way? Other way? Other way? Oh, I don't even know if I can do it that the other way. Like I was thinking like this, right? But then that's not going to work either. It feels like you need to be at it like this to exit, and that's always going to leave those dead ones, right? There's some kind of asymmetry with the fact that the exit is on this side that's affecting how I can actually fill this puzzle out. Not really sure. I should remember these puzzles, shouldn't I? Oh no, I feel inadequate. I feel like, I don't know. Oh, it doesn't work. Can definitely do that and fill that bottom row, but then we're kind of stuck here because we have this whole property where it's like that can go 3, but it can't go 4 because the other one would need to be vertical on the end, which would require that to be there. I guess you can do this, which I did earlier, but then we've got this problem here. So that's why I was thinking the other way, but that doesn't work either. Sorry, my dog is over there rolling around in the hallway. If he gets too feisty, then I'll have to let him out, I guess. Okay. This is so tricky. Why does it have to be so tricky? There's literally no way I can think of to do it if this is vertical on this side. That's not gonna work. I don't think anyway, because you'd always have to draw around like this. And you can't draw then around this because you'd like have to go back through your line because you have to cross the shape on this side to even get up to the top. So it has to be the case, whatever there is, that this one is horizontal on this side. Right? Is that not wrong? But like this doesn't work because then we're boxed in. I mean, I guess you could theoretically do this, but then you also have this problem, so not really. Why must it be this way? I mean, I guess you can go like that and end up with that, but again, that doesn't work. If this was here, then that would work. Ah, that's it. So I just have to fill this in and then do this. Okay, my goodness. Give me that staircase. I was just thinking about these platforms and how they like move down, but you can kind of walk on them while they're still moving. Which is a thing a lot of games, including my own, don't really allow you to do, because it's actually rather tricky to make that work and not be like a source of the game horribly breaking. Okay, so now we're up on the roof. It's a very shiny door, and here is a very shiny puzzle, which is another one of these horrible space fillers, or whatever you want to call this. Fill all vertices puzzles. But we have to have one thing wrong. It's pretty clear that the thing that's wrong has to be this single square, right? Because there's no way we can actually draw around a single square unless it's at the edge of the board. Like if there was one in there, then we could do that there, but otherwise we can't. So that means that we just have to group this and this while also hitting all of these vertices, which is probably harder than it looks, because most of the time you're going to end up with something like that. So probably that. So that one's much easier than the last one we did, I think, because ultimately it's like you can kind of just logic that out, right? If you don't logically think about it, then it's harder, I guess. But I'm just looking at this white wire, so this one lit up white, but these were yellow. They went to our little motor here, I guess, right? Some kind of motor or something, right? That lifted that, or dropped to that, rather. Okay, so that's that one. I guess we should have kind of done these in order. That would have been interesting to think about. Instead, I just kind of did one that was here because I wanted to know what color that was. Anyway, it's white. This appears to be red or something, and goes back over there. But you could conceivably imagine a player, I've never seen it, but you could imagine a player that would see this door and then follow the wire back and try to figure that out. Now, this one's a bit of a dirty trick, right? Because, of course, it goes in here, and so we're like, okay, well, let's go in there and see where the wire goes. Well, it appears to go to this, and then you are pretty much at an impasse. Oh, there's some nice kind of breezy sounds in here. Yeah, when I played this the first time, I remember that, oh, I'm clipping, I just realized. Okay, so on the plus side, it seems that the clipping was not that bad. Hopefully it mostly is salvageable. On the negative side, the desync audio issue has come back, which I had totally eliminated, but I knew something bad was going to happen because I had to tweak some microphone stuff, because I had to do some stuff with the microphone besides this, and the settings have to be just perfect for every damn application that you use that you want to record stuff with. OBS wants it to be a certain way, Reaper wants it to be a different way, Audacity wants it to be a third way, so it's like, whatever I'm doing, I've got to tweak the audio settings for the microphone to be different. And OBS, for some reason, doesn't like something that's going on, and so I'm getting desync on that. So there's probably going to be gaps again and stuff like I've had for so many of these videos. And then I was like, oh, thank God it's gone. It's not a problem anymore. But nope, it's back, so I'm going to have to edit anyway, so whatever. So, sorry about that little mini rant, but it is kind of a frustrating thing when you're doing these, and it's like, you have to deal with these annoying technical issues that shouldn't be there, because it's like OBS literally does one thing, which is record a microphone, a webcam, and your screen, right? Like that's all it does. And it can't keep that in sync for some reason. I don't know why. So here we are, back to trying to be something more positive, which is playing the witness. So, yeah, so we came in here, and you kind of are going to get stymied here on this puzzle. And I know when I played this for the first time, I pretty much got stuck for a while. You know, you might notice this pole and think, okay, well, there's a pole here, but I don't really see that. And I was kind of just trying to look at it from a weird angle, and, you know, is there any kind of indication of shadow or anything? Which kind of puts you a little bit in the mindset of what the nightmare of trying to design puzzles for this game is like, because you have to be that concerned and that careful that like this thing doesn't have like shadows cast on it or something. Like it's basically almost 100% aligned with the sun, so that doesn't happen, so that there's no shadows on it, because you don't want a player to think that it's a shadow puzzle, even though, you know, you could say, well, it's not reasonable for them to think that, because of course this looks like the puzzles from the Zen Temple area, so of course they should know that it's a Zen Temple type puzzle. And it's like, well, maybe they did that 8 hours ago and they've totally forgotten that, so it kind of needs to function on its own anyway. But with that said, you're kind of stuck on that. So it's a bit interesting in that you do have to do an optional puzzle here and there, sort of, in the sense that they're not wired into anything, just so that you can solve it, because it's like a meta puzzle, right? I guess, right? So first we have to do this one in order to get in there. Yeah, this one's always tough. So this one's kind of like that one down at the bottom of the windmill, because we got a bunch of these little 3 L triominoes or whatever. Now, what I feel like is that that's going to be in its own little area, right? Like these two are going to get grouped together, it feels like, because that's like our path of least resistance, I guess, is to try to group those. And then it's just like, can we form something around the outside edge using these L blocks? So we've got 5 L blocks, so they can be rotated however we want, which certainly makes life easier, but only just because, well, we can do that, like those up there. They can form a little block like that, and we can stick another one down there, and that would be 3, except that we're not including 3. So that's a problem. That is a problem. But of course we could add another one, and that would be fine. But then we are not including that one, so I guess we would have to do like this and this. So that's almost correct as far as the L blocks are concerned. We just have this bit on the bottom right with 2 of those stars there. So I feel like if we take this thing that I just did, like this, and just flip it and do this, then I think that will work. Yeah. Okay, so of course we can go into here, and there are some other interesting puzzles in here, which we will look at, but we wanted to focus on that wire. So it's almost cruel, but it is the town, and so it's meant to be kind of a harder area, but you sort of just have to happen to notice that this is like on this yellow pane of glass, and maybe you think back to like the color puzzles area, right? And that was a thing. Now, it's helpful that there is like some color puzzles up there, and that you might wander around in here and come around from this way, where it's more likely that you would see that on your way out of the building. Also interesting that there's sort of a hole in this window right here, just so you can kind of see through there without a bar in the way. Just such slight differences. Anyway, so that makes this puzzle over here that we have not looked at yet, which I maybe should have prefaced this whole thing with, but it makes this puzzle to open this door actually doable, because otherwise it's not doable, because you've got like those actually render on top of the cursor, I just realized. At least the transparent part of the cursor, the symbols do. You don't end up with transparency on those from that. Oh, at least the blue ones, it looks like. Or something? No, the red also, yeah. Sorry, that's just a subtle thing. So the symbols get rendered without any lighting applied to them at all, right? They're always like full bright, no matter what. Which is a bit of an interesting thing. But it just makes sure that the colorblind friendliness is always there as far as what colors are picked, and you don't have to worry about that the sun's in the way or shadows are cast on it that make the colors look different. It just makes kind of the logic aspect of the color a little bit better. Anyway, so obviously, you know, if you played this before, you know that we have to get this door open because there's some things out here that will tie together to form the blocker for that Zen Temple style puzzle. But of course, you're not going to know that at this point, so it's kind of like you're sort of aimlessly solving puzzles until you figure that out, right? And that's the idea, isn't it? It's just really nice that this has like this little garden here with these little rectangular type footstones and stuff. I was just thinking about that it's such a little like attention to detail with different structures of these buildings, and I don't even know like quite why. Obviously these containers call back a little bit to the color puzzles area, not entirely, and these call a little bit to the Zen Temple area with like kind of the trellises, and I mean this is more of like a church steeple type thing than it is like a Zen temple, but in any case. So now we know that the red goes around that way. There's a black L in the middle, and then there's yellow on top. So those get grouped together, these get grouped together, and these get grouped together. So that should, in theory, make this somewhat more solvable. So we can pretty easily do this, I think. Oh, no, that's not right. What did I group that was wrong? What did I group that was wrong? I don't know, actually. Because these are red, these are blue, let's say, and then those are white, so we can't actually group that with that. So, So we could do something like this, though. Yeah. I don't know if we can still see it, but just barely. It's at such a steep angle. Yeah, and so then we have our little Zen Temple callback where we have to line up all these pieces just so that we can draw our line around it. There's no particularly tricky bit, like there's nothing that's broken off or anything. So that's opened our first door here. And we've still got, so we did that one. So we've still got two more that we have to actually open. So there's some optional puzzles in there. I do not know whether I want to cover them because, well, we'll cover the sound one because that's not going to take long, but the other one is going to take a little while, and I don't know if I want to cover it right now since there's a lot of stuff in the town. So here, of course, we're in a soundproof room, which doesn't have no sound, but what can we actually hear here? Let me turn the sound up a bit. So there's definitely like a very low resonant sound, which I feel is probably meant to emulate the sound of blood in your ears that you would hear when it's really quiet or in a soundproof room, particularly. So anyway, so this is obviously a callback to the audio puzzles, which may or may not be something the player remembers, as is the case with anything in the town, I suppose. But there's a speaker here, somewhat maybe hard to tell, but you know, it's got little tweeters and stuff, and it's disassembled. So, and there's no bird sound to be heard. Oh yeah, we were going to go do the audio again. I forgot about that. We were going to cover the second half of that. Oh well. That'll get covered, I guess, in the next one. If I remember, it's going to be in my mind to go to the mountain next. But anyway, so here we can kind of just do whatever, which is strange, right? It's like, well, the first thing I tried worked. Well, I don't know. Does it not matter what I do, right? It's, I think, what most players are going to do. I'd be like, oh, well, maybe I'll go through here. It's like, oh, that didn't work. Anyway, this is an often misunderstood puzzle, mostly because it's so amenable to any kind of solution that you think of, because the actual solution is just you can put anything as long as you put both on the same, like you put the same thing on both panels, right? So anything that you might think of like, oh, it's this sound, right? As long as it's like got a low, and a mid, and a high in it, right? So here I did low, low, high, mid. So if I do low, low, high, mid, then that will work. So anything will work as long as it's the same on both of those. We also have some like bamboo here, which is a callback to the audio puzzles area. I don't think the building type is particularly a callback to anything, but maybe it is. Looks like it's more of a callback to the audio, or not the audio, the color puzzles area. Anyway, so blue room, but we will get back to that perhaps in the next one. That might be a good thing to do, actually, to do a little bit of an odds and ends thing, because we can want to do the audio puzzles, but I feel like covering those is not going to take that long, especially because I kind of already covered the first set. So I'm not going to go too in detail on those. I'm just going to kind of cover the last set, or the second set of that area. Anyway, moving on. So that, of course, is totally optional, both of those things. And what you do need to do, though, is these other ones. So I don't really know. I guess this would be considered the next one, blue, right? Which kind of goes through here and snakes around and goes up there, which is interesting, right? Of course. There's also a building here that pretty much serves no purpose other than for you to see that there's a wire going there, right? There's a little fireplace with a windflower in it. I believe they are windflowers. That is my guess onto what these flowers are. Anyway, yeah, so it's really just enough for us to tell, okay, it must go up there somehow, right? That appears to be where it goes, so I guess I have to be able to get up there. So you kind of look around the building and think, well, where could I get up? And of course this is sticking out, and this is also sticking out, which sort of implies to you, okay, maybe I can get up there. Especially if you look around here, you'd be like, oh, okay, of course I can get up here, because there's this little counterweight staircase, right? And there's this nice little puzzle here that's blank, so I don't know, man, maybe we can do anything. Let's just try something. Oh no, it doesn't work, right? Yeah, so this building, of course, and the puzzle inside of it is a callback to the keep. Now, of course, it's a radically different visual look to the thing, right? It's interesting because, you know, in the keep, it's like we've got these green bush mazes, right? Now, these have like this vine stuff growing on them, so it almost makes you wonder if that's like the underpinning of how those those hedges are constructed in the hedge mazes, right? Because they are so square. It's like, oh, did they like grow some stuff on something? It could just be meant to sort of be a contrast in a way, right? That this is very not natural, right? It's like this blue, bright blue tarp. It's very not natural. Obviously, it looks very pretty, I think, the contrast of that color, but I'm just kind of contemplating why the choice of these blue tarps and stuff, other than just to, I guess, give it a memorable visual identity. So there's a few different clues that this might be connected to the puzzles in the keep. One is that there's these kind of, I think these are supposed to be roses, but there's these white roses here. Let's say they're roses, which those are also in the keep. Of course, the type of puzzle layout here is, well, that's not really that similar, but the gate here is similar. Each of the front courtyard puzzles in the keep ends on this kind of gate door. So that gives you a little bit of a visual reference to that area, and also it becomes a bit of a hint to the puzzle, because then you can kind of guess that, well, this must be the exit door, right? Because that's what the exit doors to the areas in the keep look like. And then going in here, well, yeah, you kind of would look around and wonder, well, what could there be that would hint us? And in some sense, it's like more obvious than the one in the keep that has the like tall grass and the shorter grass. You need to follow the shorter grass path, because here it's just like this moss and stuff that's growing, and then there's like there's no moss in some spots, right? But you'd have to have done that area to be able to kind of see that. And then, of course, there's a little bit more to it in that there's these like piles of things, and you kind of have to go through and be like, well, is that like a path through there? Or, you know, how do I interpret the path? And it kind of becomes I guess, path of least resistance to a certain extent, as long as you don't cross green, right? So like this little junction here, it has to be pretty clear that it couldn't possibly be that you're supposed to like squirrel around here, because that needs to like clearly be not grass underneath there, and also like not grass underneath here, right? Anyway, so yeah, so then you're kind of left to decide where the beginning is, and I guess this is the beginning, right? So it goes 1, 2. How do we determine these? Because this is like a grid square. So 1, 2, 3 over, and then 1 down, and then 1, and then 2 over, and then down, and then 1 and 2 over, and then down, and then back over and back down, and then kind of squirrels around here and up and over. So we're going to try to do that. So it's like this, I think, and then like this, and then like this. Oh, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. It seems like it does like this or something. There we go. It's like it was a little squirrelier. I didn't do our thing of run up the stairs while it was still moving. So then we get up here, which is a bit of a reference to the what's interesting, there's like rocks in those things. That's weird. There's like rock pillars. And then there's like blue around them. I wonder why that is. Why would it have these rock pillars inside of each of those? That's, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of contemplating that. In any case, it's a bit of a reference here to the swamp. And the swamp has these kind of like, well, obviously it's this type of puzzle, and then also it is, it's that sort of meta puzzle thing, right? So there's like 3 solutions, I think, for this. You can of course do that, which gives you the tries to move sound but doesn't move. You can do this one, which is like a halfway, and then you can do like your whole way puzzle. And I guess technically you can draw the line from left to right either way. So there's that also. But yeah, it's interesting that there's those stone pillars. So you could imagine maybe that there's these tarps around those because they're like trying to protect them for some reason. Like maybe they're, I don't know, they could potentially have been part of like a support structure for this building itself, right? Because the roof of this building is kind of just gone. I don't know. Kind of wonder about that. In any case, so then we're up here. Some more puzzles. These ones are bright neon blue, and are symmetry mix-ins, right? So they are both symmetrical and also involve these symbols. Fairly easy puzzles, I would say, but you know, is what it is. And then we get to this one, of course, which has to be harder, doesn't it? So it feels like these are not nearly as hard as I remembered, but not everything has to be hard, it just has to be interesting. So here we've got this. So I feel like this is the same puzzle, I think, but rotated, isn't it? Yes, like the same puzzle, but then you like rotate it around, and then we force you to go through that spot instead. So that makes it different. Maybe it is difficult, but maybe it isn't. It's not that difficult, you just have to kind of think about it. So that's blue, that gets us our next one. So we really only have one more to get to the top. If only we could just see just at that little bottom bit, then we could snipe that from here. So our last one is going to be the most interesting one to chase down if you were to chase it down from this angle. Most of the time players don't do that, I don't think. They usually go the other way around. They usually come at it like, oh, here's a puzzle that I can do, right? And then they just follow that until they get to a dead end. But if we were to go from, oh, that's that next door, and follow this back, then you would see, okay, well, this goes over here, and it goes up a tree, and it goes around up here, and that connects to that, which I can't do, and that connects down back over here, which I also see connects to like 3 things, which connect to this, which I can't do, which go out that way. So if you're following it this way, then it's an awful lot to follow. You might actually give up on it. Which goes to that, which I also can't do, which goes back over here and through this tree and then over here, and there's a wire snaking through there, which goes down and connects to this, which I can't do, and and then that, oh, that also has a thing that comes from here. Oh, hey, look, I found a bug. I found a visual bug in the witness. 0 out of 10, guys. I found one after, how many years is it? That wire's twisted the wrong way there. Anyway, it goes down here and ends up at this panel here, which is what's much more likely for people to find, because it's a lot more likely that you'd be running along down here, just kind of going along the beach and be like, oh, there's a puzzle here. How do we do this? Maybe you look at it from the wrong way. It does not get cruel and snap you in the wrong way. But I guess you kind of, it's meant to be hard anyway, so you wouldn't want to snap in. So this is, of course, a callback to the optional puzzles from the symmetry area, which I think I did in these videos. I don't remember, because that was so long ago. So we just have to kind of draw around those palm trees and that reflection. And then I immediately got popped out of it and misaligned it. Okay, so that takes us up here and down here. And then we've got what should obviously be a shadow puzzle callback if you've done the shadow puzzles, right? So we're getting very like mixed in with different types of puzzles here, which is interesting. And then the funny thing is that it's like the panel's own cable that forms the line here. So we can see the left side just goes up and over. So that means that that's the left side of the panel. So we go up and then over and then down and then over and down and then over and then up and then over and then up. Maybe once, maybe twice. I think once, up, once, yeah. So, and then over and then down. An interesting thing is that there's like these little vertical bars, which kind of give you an indication of where those grids sections are, right? That's like one grid section, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, right? So we can't, of course, solve this really while seeing it, so we're sort of just stuck having to remember that that's what it does. So it does a little L there, and then goes over, and then snakes up, and then does a little thing. So that's like L, goes over, snakes up, and then goes over and does a little thing. And yeah, it's its own wire there, which is rather cute. But yeah, I never did notice that this was screwed up, the one that goes into the back here. Twisted the wrong way. It's perfectly fine up until that last twist. Oh well. It's tough to keep track of where all your wire bends are. And that goes up onto that and through this tree and snakes kind of around to this, which is a totally different type of tree puzzle, right? To the one that we've done before. But of course, if we look around, we'll very quickly notice, oh yeah, there's an apple there though. So it's interesting that even though the orchard puzzles are totally unnecessary, they're totally like optional puzzles, if you want to finish the town, then you need to understand the basic principle of those puzzles and actually be able to kind of think about something in a different way using that knowledge. So you still kind of need that knowledge to get through all the required stuff, even though it is an optional area. And I was kind of freezing there for a second because I was thinking, well, technically you don't have to do all the areas before you go to the mountain. That's just kind of how I've been doing these videos. And it also seems to be how most people play the game, even though you don't have to do that. So we've got on the panel 4 things, and so it's like, well, it's pretty clear that it's not like a side-on view. But if we examine the tree a while, we can see, okay, well, there appear to be like 4 major splits on the tree, so maybe it's like a top-down view of the tree, right? And it's clear that the apple's on one and not the others. And it appears to be the case that all of them have broken branches except for the one that the apple is on. So that's interesting to think about. So there's one with a broken one on the end. Yeah, so that one. So they all have broken branches except the one with the apple on. So you don't even really have to orient so much, because you could imagine like that's got 1. I mean, that has 2, so you can orient So there are kind of two things you can say, like, okay, well, this is missing 1, 2, and this is only missing 1, and this is only missing 1. So anyway, we know that that's the one with the apple. So then from the center of the tree, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that's the one with the apple. So it can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's the one with the apple. And that's our solution. We follow our wire around, and it runs into the base of this puzzle, which has a few interesting things going on about it. But the most obvious one, of course, is that, well, this looks like a shadow puzzle, right? So it seems like our start here, and we draw here. Do all that. That seems like it'll work. Just kind of avoid these shadows, I guess. And we get a green wire. But of course there's 2 other wires coming here, so this thing is not powered up. So what does that mean? Well, it must mean that there's 2 other ways to solve this. And the funny thing is, like, there's actually kind of the other 2 starts are quite hidden, and this one is not, right? Now, partly that's just an accident of the way the shadow puzzles work, but you could imagine it being a shadow puzzle where you had to follow the shadows or something. I mean, it wouldn't really work for this puzzle, but you could imagine it. So oftentimes I think that's what people think, actually, is they think, oh, well, maybe I have to, like, follow the shadows. And they're like, well, can't really, but maybe we can do that. It's like, well, that doesn't work. So there's a couple things here. I think one is that this little shape here might clue you in, right? Because if you remember the puzzles from the desert area, they sort of all had that kind of, I don't know, starburst shape, this hexagon shape, right? So that might lend you to think, well, maybe there's some kind of perspective I can get on it where I can see the sun and that there might be some information there. Or you might just poke around until you eventually see it. But I think that that's like part of what you might take away from there. So, yes. So, yeah. So then the question is like, well, there's 2 starts, right? There's the one in the middle, too, that we also didn't see. You might think that's the one for this, but it's clear that that goes over there and over here. So it can't be that. It must be this. And we can tell by virtue of the fact that there's like not a scratch, like this is not got dark here, that all of that must go through the shadow, right, to reach there. So then we're just kind of drawing our line here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's not that bad. And now we've got our orange line. And I believe it's the case that the puzzles that were in the shadow puzzles area, I believe, had green lines, like green wires, I should say, and the puzzles that were in the desert, I believe, had orange wires. Somebody can check me on that. And of course, there's one more thing from there, and if you're kind of already at that point of thinking, well, maybe it has something to do with how I look at it, you might either notice that there's some weird stuff here, or you might just eventually notice that you can go out here. That's like really, I find the hard part about this is that you have to walk past the panel and then out this hole in the wall. Some people even look at this hole in the wall here and think, oh, well, that's just a wall, and that you can't walk out of it. Mostly because I think a lot of video games you wouldn't be able to walk out of that. It would be a wall. So of course you just have to go out here, and then we find this nice little thing here that's lined up perfectly. So that goes around, and then, oops, we're not totally lined up perfectly, actually. We get, I don't know if it's actually possible to get this one 100% perfect, but we can get it close enough. Close enough for rock and roll. So there's like a few different things where this goes. Like it goes there, but it's pretty clear that there's an exit up there. Well, it's maybe not clear, but so it goes up and to the left from there, and then around, and then out to the right. So that's like kind of the main thing you have to remember, is that it goes up and to the left, and then around, and then out to the right. Then I believe it just goes like this. Well, clearly I was wrong. Maybe it goes like this. Alright, so I totally didn't remember what it does there. Okay, it goes down. It does a little squiggle. But I think it was the left one, right? Up and to the left. down, out, to the right, and it was this, and it goes up, and then that, right? Nope, it goes all the way over. No. There we go. So, and then I think the Zen Temple area also has red wires. Actually, I'm almost certain of that one. Now, we don't have like red, white, and blue here forming, not red, white, and blue, red, green, and blue here. We have orange forming white. But it would be cute if it was red, green, and blue, right? But it is what it is. In any case, so that gives us a nice white wire that goes up here and goes to this, of which it seems pretty obvious that there's a shadow here, so that either goes that way or that way. It's unclear which way, but that's not really enough to go on. But again, it has this kind of hexagon shapes, which might lead you to think, well, maybe there's another perspective where we can look at that and see something, right? And in kind of one of the nice things about this town and the interconnectedness, that perspective is, of course, over here and through this window. I don't even think you can see it from here. Yeah, it's literally got to be through the window. Which is so cool, I think. You can just barely see that shadow from here. If you had like lower quality settings, you probably would have to like remember the shadow. We need some better quality settings for this game, Mr. Jonathan Blow. We also need to get that cable over there fixed. That is just unacceptable. Anyway, so that's pretty much does it for this area, other than the optional stuff in there, I believe. So I think we'll end the video at that, which gets us about the hour mark. And then the next video, I'm going to do the audio puzzles, and I'm also going to do the color puzzles in there. I think I might actually do 2 little videos for that, but they'll both come out at the same time. Because I kind of want to keep things separate. I don't want to like have, you know, I don't want you to like tune in for one video and then be spoiled on some other area or something that you weren't quite aware of. Anyway, so climbing the tower, we can eventually get to the top. And we can power our laser and enjoy the views of the town. There is much to see up here. So, anyway, thanks everybody for joining for another witness analysis. Sorry about the like weird technical difficulties in the middle, and I'll hopefully have not lost much audio, and I'll be able to edit that together, but I hate every time that happens. It's not because it's just frustrating to deal with the technical thing. It's that it literally adds at least another hour, if not more, to getting these done, because then it means I have to go in and I have to snip all the little bits where the audio desyncs and then resync it, and then I have to like re-export that out as a video. So anyway, yeah, it just adds a lot to that. So let's bask upon the glory of our laser. We don't have all the lasers yet because I need to get the audio laser because I don't have it on this file, and I also need to, I think, get the symmetry one because I don't have that one on here either. Anyway, as I said, thanks for joining. I will see you all again in another month, and I will be looking at the audio puzzles as well as that bonus color puzzle.